Linda, Ron Engele, it's fair to say, kind of rough and gruff.
Ron Engele is rough and gruff, yes.
You are more genteel, and
I try to be.
he might even say not very strong or effective.
Well, he might.
Is that a fair assessment, Ron? If she thinks you're rough and gruff, is she the opposite? Or is she somewhere in
Can
between?
I change tone for a moment? You know what? I keep concentrating on the things that I need to get done. I don't like to dwell on anything but my directions. My directions have been relatively clean and clear. If you look at the things that I've accomplished in a relatively short time frame, it's not been easy.
Well, we'll get to that. We'll get to some of those
And
individual
to try
achievements.
and go off to the negative, I'm not going there.
Okay, well,
I'm sorry.
we're just trying to get to the transparency and moving beyond the co-kill, the Joe kill, and the lingering effects of animosity that we still appear to have at some point. Would you say it's fair to say, Linda, that there's still animosity? Is it just on the dais or is it in the community?
I don't think it's in the whole community.
Ron, would you say there's animosity on the dais or is that beyond this, you
I'm
know?
going to change it just a little bit for you. I look at it in this perspective. No matter where we are, Volusia County, Seminole County, and or Oak Hill, we have low information voters and misinformed voters.
Right.
I consider myself to be a low information because I don't know everything, but I choose not to be a misinformed voter. And I think that's been pretty evident in the track record that I've got so far. I don't want to be that misinformed voter. I want to make the right decision. I can't do it every time, but I try.
Do you feel you've made the right decisions overall? Keeping in mind the Oak police situation as being the biggest.
As I mentioned before, we've had
Just
some,
in, yes or no?
we've had some big ticket items in the past. We got big ticket items coming in the
But
future.
we'll get to that.
Yes.
Okay. Linda, you agree with it?
No, because I think he's had some instances, actually there've been some instances where I asked him to resign. He'll remember it, you remember it. I think probably now would be a good time for him to apologize to your wife and to you for his behavior at one point, but
Well, we're not gonna-
that's it.
It's not about us. This is not the forum.
Well,
Ron, let me ask you this. The bottom line is you have a job, you're on that dais, and you're accountable to these 1,790 people, right?
Correct?
Let's move on from the police station. I think we've pretty much gotten what we're gonna get out of that. I think you both agree the sheriff's is the way to get, sheriff's office is the way to
he's
go.
doing a great job.
I did mention one thing at the beginning before we get to the other things. The police department funding and the sheriff's office funding, there's not much of a difference. Maybe in the beginning, there might have been 1,000 or 2,000 more because of the initial transfer, but last year, I guess, I was talking to City Clerk Administrator Con Evans, and I believe it was 15,000 the first year. And then for the next fiscal year, in October 1st, you're looking at 13 to 15.
13.
Well, you're on the board, so by commission. Can you afford more than that?
I'll tell you what my thought is. I think Mr. Johnson's sending us a message. Part of the message is our interaction with him, or lack of interaction with him at an intellectual level.
What do you, I'm not translating.
If I'm a businessman and you come to me and ask me to do a job for you, I'm going to give you a price for that. If I don't want to do business for you, I'm going to give you a price that's going to say, no, I don't want to do business with you. That's the impression that I get. And I think that I've got the message. I think that perhaps in the future we may need to start looking at other alternatives.
Do you have any?
For it.
What would be another alternative?
There's a way to plan for that.
Well, I mean, you could go back to an initial municipal police department. I guess the cost, I've talked to FDLE
At this
about
point in
this.
time, the cost
Talking like $1
may be
million bucks.
prohibitive, but
$1 million because of all the training and the procedures and the standards that they have now, I
I
guess.
think there may be ways of reducing that.
Linda, you agree?
I don't think we can afford to pay officers here in Oak Hill like the deputies that we get through the county. I think we get higher caliber.
Well, let's talk about the county for a minute in terms of policing. You have, Deb Daniels was a 2-year incumbent. She's up for re-election now. Before her, you had Joey Alexander, and I believe before that, Jack Hammond. Am I right? Do you feel there's enough, is the county hearing you enough? For example, last year, County Manager Deneen presented a budget to the county council members, gave everybody in the county a raise. I believe Johnson's hands were tied. If everybody gets a raise, his deputies get a raise. It could pass on to you, correct?
Yes,
So what alternative could you do in that case, short term?
nothing.
Just eat it.
You have to eat it.
You gotta have
Well-
law enforcement.
Alternatively, if we start looking at other ways of reducing some of our other costs, we can absorb that in short term. That's one way possible.
We have 2 employees for the city right now.
You know, reducing costs, other expenditures in the city, that kind of stuff.
Let's talk about that for a minute. Oak Hill is, as I've said, the smallest incorporated city in Volusia County, 1,790 people. Some people have talked over the years of, well, maybe it's time to unincorporate. No, we want our city identification. We don't have our police department anymore, but it still says police out there. I guess that's somewhat of a reminder that you have a municipality here. What do you do if you've never had a CRA? You're a member of the Southeast Volusia Advertising Authority, never had representation on that. You've never had a member of the county council from Oak Hill that I know of, at least in the last 30 years, am I wrong?
No.
You have secondary organizations like the Volusia League of Cities or Volusia Council of Governments, which until a couple of years ago, I didn't even know they existed.
And TPO.
What is TPO? It's like one of these acronyms.
Volusia County has a transportation authority. In the next county down, they call it MPO.
I'm curious what the P is.
Yeah, it's a Volusia County.
Transportation.
No, I mean TPO.
It's a planning.
No, but what does TPO stand for?
Mayor Gibson, do you remember?
Stands for Training,
What's that what?
Planning Organization.
Transportation.
that,
Transportation Planning
Is
Organization.
that the Honorable County at-large
That's right,
Councilman?
sir.
Welcome to Oak Hill.
I've been here many times. Good to be here.
So, Ron and Linda, either one you can take up this point. Oak Hill has another distinction, and we talked about this with Yohausen, he's a candidate, and another seat for election in Oak Hill. Oak Hill has a distinction of being the only municipality, city, septic system, there's no water and sewer. We're in the 21st century, well into it. I remember it was big to do in the mid-90s with some of those hamlets outside of Port Orange, where it was like $8, $10, $15,000 a home. People down here absorb that kind of thing without help. Any of you jump in on that?
I can jump in there. I've been working with a group that's called Florida Rural Water Association.
Just try to give us a short version of it for the
Mr.
time.
Carroll Sterling, I've been after him for a little while, trying to help us come up. We gave him $2,500 to basically help create a phase plan for bringing water and sewer down US 1. He's supposed to have a report for us shortly after July 7th. That's one phase. That doesn't cover the riverfront, waterfront, and some of the other infill areas, but it's something that the city's actually looking into, yes.
I know there's been a lot of, I was here at a meeting early in the year where, in fact, Ron, you were helping with the map, where you're talking about annexing some territories to the north. Linda, do you think that by doing that, it gets you closer to Edgewater? We had a candidate last night, Justin Kennedy, a former Edgewater City Councilman, I believe he's in the audience tonight. He suggested that it's not as big as what people think. You can hook up with Edgewater if you can get the lines, I guess, going. Is it important to move more to the north as opposed to the south? Would you say, Linda?
No, I think we will move to the south.
Is more important? Why is that?
You're talking about the septic
Sewer,
tank,
yep.
the sewers.
Yeah.
Well, you know, part of the river has septic tank, I mean, has sewer.
Oh, there's lines that exist out there?
Yeah, as far as just past Goodrich's. Well, actually, the Seminole Rest is.
No, some of us couldn't afford to hook up with any of
I was told that if there is any remnant,
Yeah, they have what they need.
I was told if there was any remnants of something like that, that it's so minuscule that you couldn't do it comprehensively, could you? For an entire section of the
I
city?
don't know.
There's a number of ways of dealing with that. We've got a new city planner, and they've got quite a background in dealing with grants. and we've asked them as a city council to start looking into that. The water line and sewer line, yes, Mr. Hyatt is correct, runs down River Road. And actually, I get a report from the state of Florida, Department of Agriculture, and prior to that sewer water being put in, and after that sewer water put in, you can see the huge difference. So they do test, the Department of Agriculture does testing at 3 different
Let's
levels.
wrap it up.
Okay.
Oh, let me ask you this. This is going to be the last question. I'm going to turn it over to the audience. They've been very patient and very cooperative with the silence of the camera. When we held a forum for you late last year, Headline Surfer did a community forum on the Shiloh preserve wetlands, natural habitat for possible aerospace, whether it's SpaceX or one of these other companies. It's all kind of like other things in government, all mishmash. My understanding is that SpaceX is now in Texas. There's another site that may be in Georgia or Virginia. Puerto Rico is another strong alternative. Linda, you've gone on record saying you're opposed
Correct.
to aerospace launch here. Ron, what's your position?
It's really pretty simple. The city of Oak Hill really doesn't have a dog in the fight. We can sit and oppose it or whichever. Right now, I'm on the fence for one reason. If anybody with real logic and reason is going to look at the process starts by something called an environmental impact study. The environmental impact
What's
study
that? Let's join that one.
it doesn't do what most people think it does. But it looks at socioeconomic, it looks at infrastructure, it looks at jobs, it looks at, and it does look at trees and birds and that kind of stuff. That supposedly was going to come back roughly about next November, next December. That's been changed roughly up until next February. And that's the time when we need to make a decision based on real information.
Do you favor it or not favor it?
It depends upon.
If you had to say right now, I want the rocket launch site, I don't want it.
I want to see what the report comes back, because if you understand, they're looking at
No,
shooting
no,
three different types of rockets.
We got Linda, what about you? You want it, you don't want
There's
it?
too many facilities down there. We don't need it here.
Well, here's two, please, let's avoid it's great to have the audience thing, but I want to try to keep this focused because we're really running out of time and this is an important question. Clay Henderson is an environmental attorney, very prominent, used to be a member of the county council. He's with Holland and Knight. He's one of the few attorneys in the state of Florida whose environmental pedigree is pretty much without question. He says, no way on Shiloh. But then you have Chambers of Commerce, Embry-Riddle University officials, some county officials saying, look, economic development, we have the airports, we have the college facilities, could be jobs. But when we held our forum here, I asked Mayor Gibson if we could hold a forum, and he agreed to it. And we asked the people here, what would you want if you have a say-so, and it's going to come whether you like it or not? What about a water and sewer exchange? Would that help, Ron? Would that pacify it? Would that be economic development?
Economic development would be far-reaching beyond that, but that would be one of the benefits, yes.
And Linda, would that be palatable for you or no way?
No way.
Okay. I'm going to turn it over to the audience. If you could please just say your first name and last name and what your home community is, what city.